welcome to another episode of the Six and Out podcast brought to you by Sports News Blitz. I'm Bilal, and this is the show where we talk everything cricket. Well, Dejan, we finally made it. After the league phase, after several weeks, we're now down to the IPL playoffs. To break things down, once again, I'm joined by Dejan to talk through the final stages of this league phase as we enter the playoffs starting tomorrow. Well, Dejan, we're finally here. We know the four teams. Talk to me. How are we feeling? How are we feeling ahead of tomorrow?
Uh, as an RCB fan, I'm nervous. I'm definitely nervous, but we did this dance last year, and we came out on top. So I'm confident, but I am also very. I do know that, especially in this tournament, it's just the best team that show up on the day, especially this time form goes out the window. So I'm wary of that, but I am confident that we can get it done.
Yeah, and just given how the season has gone, the ebbs and flows from start to finish, I mean, in a way, it has been sort of weird that it is these four that have made it. And I just want to talk on Rajasthan because we already knew the first three spots were already confirmed, but that fourth spot was still up for grabs. And Rajasthan had to beat Lucknow and they had to beat Mumbai, who are arguably the two worst teams in the tournament.
Well, not
But well, yeah, it's definite now the table is what it is.
yeah.
But I mean, pressure, as you mentioned, pressure does create thing. It causes panic in certain teams, especially in games where you expect the teams to win. But for Rajasthan, they didn't really feel that pressure, and in the end, they ended up getting the job done.
Yeah, very important because I said they won their first four games, and people thought they were going to take the tournament by storm. Then you always have a bit. Then you have a bit of dip in the middle. Similar to Punjab, actually, you win your games at the beginning. Everyone talks about how great you are. Then you have a bit of a drop off. But the good thing about Rajasthan, they turned it around when they needed to, and I just think that performance against MI, they had a lot of setbacks in that game. They struggled a little bit with the bat, but I thought the way they turned it around, especially whenever they were in tough situations, the way they bounced back showed great character from them, and I think that was very important going into the eliminator. Very, very important. So full credit to them for getting the win and getting into the playoffs. And yeah, we'll have to see how they perform against a good SRH team, but they've got the players to do it, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, given all the talk of their batting, which we saw in the Lucknow game, Vaibhav Suryavanshi again, just missing out on 100, but again, a high strike rate. But as you mentioned, in that crunch game against Mumbai, it was Jofra Archer. I mean, just how good has he been? Figures of 3 for 17 off his four overs. I mean, to think how bad of a season he had in the 2025 season, and given how he's turned it around, I mean, what's it come down to, Jofra Archer? I mean, is it just him finding his groove in this Rajasthan side now?
I think he's just stuck to his strengths. I think he's stuck to his strengths. He's bold. With his pace, he's always going to cause problems. He will always cause problems with his pace, but he's been by far and away the best power play bowler this tournament because he's just hit the lines and lengths, hit the deck hard, running fast and bowled fast. He hasn't really done many like variations this season. It's just been running fast and bowl fast, and I think that's why it's caused so many problems because he's that quick, and he just causes. And as a batsman coming up, you have very little time to react to a lot of his deliveries. Like some of the deliveries that he's bowled in this tournament, the amount of times he's got first ball wickets, or wickets in the first over, it shows you how good he's been. And in a crunch situation, a crunch game where they needed to win, and look, 205, especially at 1KD, it's not the best score, especially this season. But I just thought the way he started, getting those couple of early wickets, then coming back afterwards and getting that crucial wicket of Hardik, it was that was the game right there. That wicket of Hardik Pandya won them that game. So yeah, Archer's been outstanding in this tournament because, as I said, I think he's just backed his strengths and he's just stuck to them.
Yeah, I think it would be pleasing as well that it was a game where none of the top three really fired, but it was almost like a balanced sort of approach with the batting, where sort of everyone contributes, even like Donovan Ferreira, Ravindra Jadeja, who came into this game with both bat and ball. I mean, it has been tricky with Rajasthan, as we've mentioned, that period in the middle where we thought maybe they are losing their way, but it does feel like they seem to have got their groove back, and
Yeah.
at the right time, and it has been just enough to clinch fourth. For the Rajasthan side, then I just want to get your thoughts because it's been difficult because they've had players in form, out of form, players coming back into form. It almost feels like they're not really found their settled 11. Would you say that's probably their biggest concern heading into the playoff in that eliminator?
Probably because I think I look at it. I think okay, Nandre Berger and Archer are your two main pace bowlers, but who's going to be your other option? I know Brijesh did pretty well against MI, so maybe you stick with him. But the other options they've had, like the Sandeep Sharmas and the Deshpandes, they've not been great this season. There's still all the talk about Bishnoi. I mean, Bishnoi's barely played, and the leg spinner Yash Raj, something like that. Punya, I think that's his name. He bowled pretty well against MI, so they look like they're going to back him again. So I think they're starting to get a combination right with the bat. Obviously, I know they haven't batted like brilliantly against MI, but they look like they're getting the combinations right in terms of players. More players are now starting to contribute. It doesn't just look like it's all on Suryavanshi and Jaiswal. So that's very important for them. The key is just making sure they get that combination right with the ball, because now it's one like false like pick in terms of picking one player that's not done that maybe hasn't done well in the game that could just cost them the whole tournament. So they're at that point now where they have to, if they're going to win this tournament, they have to win 3 games, and to do that, you're going to have to make sure every single player is on it. And if you don't know your best starting 11, that's going to be an issue. But they're going to have to get it right because the eliminators 2 days away.
Yeah, and they ended up getting through, maybe just ahead of Punjab. And if you told me this in the middle of the season that Punjab will finish fifth and be out of the tournament, not even like scrape, even if you said they finished fourth, I'd think you're crazy because I just thought this team was nailed on top two,
I think
maybe
everyone did.
third.
Everyone did,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe third at worst. But I mean, I know they won at Lucknow, but to have it in terms of the situation of them it not being in their hands and with Rajasthan winning their final game, it's almost bittersweet that they won that game against Lucknow because at what cost? And it just goes to show the dramatic collapse that they did have. It's proved dividends and ultimately it's cost them another playoff spot.
Yeah, because at the start of the season, it was they looked on form and on paper, they looked like the best team at the start of the season, the most well-rounded team. They had arguably the best spinner in the history of the IPL. They had a star-studded bowling lineup. They had top quality batsmen in that top six. But that's the thing we say about the IPL. I always say about the IPL, it's such a long tournament. Players that are in form could drop out of form very quickly. And I look at Priyansh and Prabh Simran. Yeah, they get them off to good starts, but they haven't really made like a massive score recently. I know Shreyas obviously scored 100, a brilliant 100 in the last game, but his form kind of dipped as the season went on. Um, Players like Nihal Wadera, they haven't had great seasons. Shashank's had limited opportunities with the bat this season. He's kind of been used more as a finisher. And the bowling, they haven't got the bowling combination right to finish off this season. I mean, Chahal hasn't really bowled that much. Arshdeep has probably been one of the more standout players, but the death bowling hasn't been right. They've gone for a lot of runs at the death. So it just shows you how in this tournament a team can look so good, so untouchable, and then one loss can just spiral everything to the point where you lose 6 games in a row. You're always going to struggle to get qualification if you lose 6 games in a row. It's that simple. Especially when they looked so good, for them to have to drop off the way they did, it's massively concerning.
Yeah, it felt like when it was like 3, 4 losses in a row, it felt like they were just searching so hard for that win. And
Yeah,
it just doesn't help, especially when they get a few narrow losses, and it just feels like nothing's going right. None of the players are firing, as we mentioned last time. So none of the players are firing together collectively in the batting with the bowling. I mean, Ashdeep even against Lucknow, I know they won, but figures are 3 for 52. A guy who's meant to be your premier bowler, who's such a standout bowler last season and in previous seasons as well. I mean, it just goes to show from a collective anyway, just a dip in form as we've seen mid-season. It's not even like this has been like it's been like this for the whole season. This has only been for 6, 7 games, but
yeah.
just a dramatic collapse and the nature of the collapse. it's staggering because it almost feels like they're probably dumbfounded how they found themselves in this position, but they are.
Well, I just go back to it. I just think we spoke about it in the last episode. Just discipline and standards at your team. Punjab have been the worst fielding side in this tournament by far, and they've dropped their standards so much with both the bat and the ball to the point where they, players like Arshdeep and Chahal, they've gone for high economy rates this season. Other bowlers have come in and struggled as well. As I said, the batsman, there's been a drop off there with the bat, and it just feels like the standards have significantly dropped. I don't know how having an Australian coach manages to have you do that, but it's just happened, and it's just been really like interesting and just strange to see how they've dropped off the way they have, because I said they looked so untouchable at the beginning, but then they've just turned it around and they've just looked awful at the business end of the season, and that's the most important time. You need to win games at the end of the season to get your confidence and to make sure you get a top four finish, but they didn't, and that's why they're not in the top four.
Yeah, I just want to. I mean, with them being gone, I just want to look ahead to next season now for them, because coming into this season, they were probably one of the few teams who made probably very little changes going from 2025 to 26. Would you say it's time to do? I don't want to say an overhaul, but is it time to sort of upgrade in terms of personnel? Because we feel like the core is there, but maybe a Yuzi Chahal, maybe he's not the right leggy, as good as he is, and as probably the best leg spinner we've seen in the IPL. You know what I mean? And even the pace attack as well. Marco Janssen, is he really the same player for this franchise anyway? I don't know. It'd be difficult to see which direction this Punjab side going, whether they stick or twist it, essentially.
I think they'll stick for the majority. I just think there's a couple of positions that they could look to keep to maybe improve on. I think because they spent 11 crore on Marcus Stoinis, and the guy doesn't even bowl for them anymore. So he just bats at number 6, and he costs you that much money. It's just that doesn't really it's just kind of a waste of a position. And Yuzi's arguably the best bowler, one of the best bowlers in the IPL, like history, period. But 18 crores is a lot of money. Like that's a huge amount of purse for one player. So maybe they might get rid of a Chahal, but the advantage is if they release Chahal, they can probably just buy him back in the auction. It won't cost that as much money. So there's the advantage of that. But they're just going to have to. It's hard to say whether they'll change much, because it's the same team essentially that got to a final last year. It's just they've just had a significant drop off, and Ponting and the coaching staff and Shreyas as a captain, they're going to have to assess what's gone wrong this season, and they're going to have to just work on that for next year. I doubt they're going to make as many changes or like make any drastic changes, but I think there's a couple of positions they might just look at and say, okay, we need improvements here. We need to improve this part of the team. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them, but I suspect there won't be any dramatic changes for the third and final year of the cycle.
Yeah, like I said, it'll be very interesting because, as you mentioned, the highs of reaching the final last season, and thinking they probably matched or potentially eclipsed that, and just to see it fall apart is staggering. But I just want to move on to another team where we thought maybe at the halfway point this team was probably doomed after 6 or 7 games in the Kolkata Knight Riders, and the way they've given themselves a fighting chance. And I know that in the end that Delhi game was essentially a dead rubber.
Yeah.
But for them to sort of essentially just improve and find their feet as the tournament went on, especially in the latter half, and they're probably top 4 in terms of form in terms of the last 7 games as well. So for this Kolkata side, it is weird because it's the opposite of Punjab. They just started really poorly and then just managed to find their way, but with it just being too late. So just for this KKR side, how do you sort of sum it in terms of what's gone right, and for them, what can they improve? Is there sort of, as we mentioned with Punjab, is there sort of personnel that they need improvement? Because the conversation has been Cameron Green. Do they keep him? Do they twist with him? What's the situation with that as well?
I think their season has gone from there's mitigating circumstances. They've had a lot of injuries that will always affect the team. They've had a lot of injuries, and I don't think they were quite ready at the start of the season in terms of they spent so much money on certain players, and a lot of those players weren't eligible to play because of injuries and other things. So they started, I think, a bit handicapped with what they had. But I think once they started to get more combinations right, once they started to get a couple of players back in form, then they really made that push at the end. And as I said, I think they can look back on the season with pride, knowing that, okay, we struggled a bit at the beginning, but the character we've shown to turn it around. And we found some real gems in there, in the likes of Kardik Tyagi. Finn Allen's turned his season around. Finn Allen's kind of had a turnaround this season. Cam Green's got better as it's gone on. I think Anil Roy, I think, has been very good, getting Chakravarti back in form. So there's a lot they can be happy with this season. I think if you're going to have to go into next season, though, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with a lot of the people that they spent big money on, like your Patiranas and stuff. Do you back Patirana for another season, even though he's bowled 1.2 overs all season? Do you back him again? That's what I would look at. But I think the coaching staff and the players can be very proud of how they've turned it around this season. Because at the beginning, it looked like they were going to be shot to pieces. But as I said, they've gotten a few combinations right. They've gotten players back in form. And they've really, as I said, they've turned it around. And to nearly make a case for top four shows you how good they were considering how bad they were at the beginning. So I'll give them full credit for that.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on the players in terms of the big question, the big money signings. Even guys like Robin Powell, who he didn't even find a place in the 11 in the latter stages. So, and even the captain, Ajinkya Rahane, at 37, could we see him lead the next season? Because I feel like in terms of batting form, he didn't have an outstanding season as per se, but he wasn't poor either. I thought it's not like he was holding them back as per se, compared to a certain captain from Lucknow. But yeah, it is just weird with this KKR team because they've just been hampered with injuries, but they've managed to mitigate it and sort of pull through. So it is strange because I feel like it should be, like I said, on paper, it should be a team that should be competing, but we saw that too late for this KKR side.
Yeah, on Rahane, I don't know if he's kind of like what I would want in a T20 captain. Like, no disrespect to him, the guy's a legend in India. He's an India legend, especially in the modern generation. Yeah. And, he's been vice captain in the past for India. But just in the T20 format, I just feel like it kind of... He's not really... I don't think his kind of stroke play and stuff is necessarily built for T20 cricket. And then to add on captaincy with that, it just feels like it's just adding more pressure onto him. The problem is KKR, I just don't think have many leaders in that team that can make a case for captaincy. But
do you think they would have to get someone in the auction, whether it be Indian or overseas, as a set captain who's built for the modern T20 game?
I'd say so. I just don't see many like captains in that team, like, unless you want to go with someone like Narayan. But is Narayan
Rinku maybe?
That's a good. To be fair, Rinku is vice captain. He has. He is, to be fair, I think he is more of a nailed-on option to Rahane. So you could probably go with him, actually. I do think Rahane, if you're going to back him next season, I wouldn't give him captaincy next season. I think have him just focus on his batting and then just kind of take that burden away of captaincy and just let Rahane focus on his batting. And I think KKR will be better, I think, if they had a change in leadership. But it's no disrespect to him because of how good he is and how much of a legend he's been. But I just feel like as he's getting a bit older and stuff, you just want to put as little pressure on him as possible and just have him just focus on his batting. So I would probably take the captaincy off him, give it to someone else like a Rinku, and then I think just have Rahane focus on his batting, and I think you'll be better off for it.
Yeah, I think another thing with KKR is they actually looked good at home again. I feel like at Eden Gardens, especially last few seasons, or since they won in 2024, it feels like it's almost like they don't do well at home. It's like similar to Punjab in a way. I know we're referring to Punjab a lot, but yeah, it just feels like they've got the sort of core players. I feel like Raghuvanshi ended the tournament really well. I just
Yeah.
feel like the batting order in general, the top five, six, that looks so lost. And we've talked about it. Like they'd always lose 3, 4 wickets in the power play, but it just feels like they had that stability of the batting, and they were able to just bat teams out. They matched up well against teams like SRH,
Yeah.
pushing teams like RCB and Gujarat as well. So, yeah, I feel like the core is there, the recipe's there. But moving on to another team in the Delhi Capitals, 7 wins, 7 losses, sixth place. I guess it's just the average Delhi season, isn't it? I mean, just failing to make the playoffs yet again. I mean, how do you sum it? Because I guess average. I mean, 6 out of 10 at best. I mean, they are six in the table.
Um, I think he's right. This is just going to be one of those things where people might look at me and say maybe I'm biased and stuff like that. But if you actually look at that Delhi team, I think they should have made top four this season. If you look at that Delhi team, like they have quality pretty much all over in so many different areas, but something's just not obviously gone right. Obviously, they won the last 3 games, which is good, but it got to a point where because they had lost so many games in the middle, it didn't mean anything, and they just they just struggled. They just struggled, especially in that middle period where after they beat us at Chinnaswamy, they lost to SRH, Punjab, they lost to us again, they lost to CSK, they lost to KKR. You can't, you know, we're at that point now, especially in the IPL, where 14 points probably isn't going to be enough to qualify. Like a lot of teams, because they bat high and they score high, they make high scores and stuff, they'll most likely get more points from that. So Delhi need to sort this out next season in terms of they just need to qualify next season. They've got the players to do it. Just something's just holding them back clearly, and it was the same thing last season. They've got very good players, but something's just not working.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the talent. I mean, what a fantastic season for KL Rahul, who's currently fourth in the standings at the moment in terms of the Orange Cap leaderboard, 593 runs and strike rate 174, which is for KL Rahul standards, he's sort of
Yeah,
been harnessed, especially in this modern day T20 batting approach of being slightly behind the times. But some of the innings he has played, he probably is the reason for a majority of Delhi's wins this season, including in that last game against KKR. So yeah, as you mentioned, and guys like Aksar, the captain, stepping up with both bat and ball, which in a way almost pushed Delhi to the brink
yeah.
of making the playoffs. So yeah, as you mentioned, they've got a good core players, but I don't know. It's difficult because what direction do they need to go in to improve? Is it the overseas makeup of the team? Because, like you mentioned, they've got Ngidi, Stark, Miller, Stubbs. You feel like you can't really go away from those four, but is there a sort of a path to improve in terms of the team that they build for next season?
I don't know. I mean, maybe try and get Kuldeep in form next year. That could be an option because I don't think Kuldeep's had his best season. Players like Natarajan, I don't think they've had their best seasons. I think there's been quite a reliance on Ngidi and Stark, especially as the season's ended. So maybe they could do a bit more in terms of their Indian bowling. But yeah, they've got the play. They've got. We go back to keep going back to it. They've got players. They've got quality players, especially in this format. But something just hasn't gone right, and it didn't go right for them last year with the way they kind of started really well and then just dropped as the season went on. They need to do more next season, and they need to build a squad that can be consistent over a season for them to get top four. And like you talk about KL, I mean, it's standard now for him. It's standard because every single year he gives you over 500 runs a season at a good strike rate. You know, he's one of the best players to ever play in the IPL, and the guy he's not even because of the teams he plays for. They don't they don't compete. They never have. You know, a couple of times they finished in the top four and stuff, but KL's never come close to an IPL apart from 2016. That was the last time. That was the only time KL's been in a final. So it's hard. It's hard for him because of how good he is. But Delhi need to do more. They need to do more to support him, and they need to do more to win more next season.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that with KL because I feel like this season in particular, he just hasn't found a settled opening partnership. Like
Yeah,
Abhishek Porel, Patum Nisanka, Samir Rizvi, he sort of fell off after the first 3 or 4 games. Sahil Parak in the recent games. It just feels like the top three, apart from KL, have just been unsettled and unstable, essentially. And I don't want to say it's hindered KL Rahul's game, but it's sort of like there's been an over reliance on him, and it looks bad when he's scoring all the runs and they're still losing games.
yeah,
Which is a shame because I feel like if Delhi, I think opening batting, Indian opening batter, and an Indian premium pacer as well. Literally
yeah,
two things that I think they're lacking. And
yeah,
I feel like if they just get quality, because I feel like there's quality out there to get in the auction, it's not like they have to spend a fortune on to get some of these guys. And I just feel like if they just retain their core, retain the overseas core in particular, if they can, that just could be the difference because I just feel like that's what they're missing.
yeah. True, because as I said, if you just get Kuldeep back in form next season, and you get just an Indian pacer that consistently plays and stuff, because Natarajan hasn't played all season and he's not been at his best. Mukesh Kumar hasn't played all season, hasn't been at his best. So get someone like that, and yeah, get an opener who could who will open with KO Rahul and be a banker next to KO Rahul. And then if you, as I said, if they do that, then maybe they might be more consistent. But they need to get it right next season. They can't have another season where they don't finish top four and they have good periods in between. They need to get it right next season.
Yeah, and Delhi fans don't want to hear this, but to think if they beat Gujarat in that game where David Miller
Well, that's
did
Miller's
the
fault.
unthinkable of not running,
That's Miller's fault.
he's probably ruined that. Delhi and Gujarat will be tied on 16 right now. And I know Delhi's net run rate ended up
Yeah.
not being the best, but in another world, hey, that's why mistakes cost you playoff
Yeah,
spots.
exactly. Exactly. I don't.
um,
I've not seen one person that has seen that and backed and supported Miller for that because it was
oh no,
ridiculous. It was
I feel like
ridiculous.
it affected Miller personally a little bit as well, which is a
Yeah,
bit shame
yeah.
because
He's a quality player, but it's just you should look. I remember just watching it, I was just like, what are you doing? Like, it's ridiculous. And yeah, as you said, it ended up costing them. And even if they won that game, they would have won three in a row, the first 3 games. So
yeah,
maybe, that might have
and
boosted
that
their
was Gujarat's
confidence.
first win of the season.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's
it's
actually crazy.
all about moments. And
Yeah,
speaking of teams who've cashed in on the moments, SRH and RCB, who before they played each other were two teams who had already qualified, but SRH managed to get a comprehensive win actually in Hyderabad. I just want to get your thoughts because it just felt like, in terms of batting quality, it just felt like between the two teams anyway, Sunrisers Hyderabad's batting outshot on RCB's. Would you say that was the difference?
yeah. I think RCB played the batting innings in about 3 separate periods. The first 6 overs where we were actually trying to chase down the score. The next period where we started to lose wickets and realised we weren't going to win, and then the final period where we just had to get over 160 and we get qualification, we get top two. Because as good as Rajat Patidar is, and as good as that innings was, that was very boring to watch. That him and Krunal's partnership, and but I was very happy that they did that because as a fan, when you're chasing down these kind of scores, you're not thinking 250. You're thinking of the score to get the top two finish. So I wasn't thinking 255. I was thinking 160. So just as they got them over to 160, I just thought, all right, that's fine. Forget about the loss. Forget about all that. So yeah, I'm look. Sunrisers batted brilliantly. You know, they batted very well. But I'm just very happy that we managed to get top two, and even on a game where we slowed down and a lot of our batters may have not scored quickly, we still scored 200. So that's a good sign going into an important game against GT.
Yeah, and it just feels like with RCB, it's just been the issue at the top. I mean, we've had the injuries to Phil Salt, now Jacob Bethel, who's returned back to England, and I just want to get your thoughts. I mean, how do you feel about Venkatesh Iyer? I mean, he played that knock against SRH, that sort of brisk start he got. Do you sort of see him as a mainstay into the playoffs as that opener alongside Virat Kohli?
Uh, no, because if Salt's fit, Salt plays.
Yeah.
It's that simple. But I mean, I feel like
No,
Vinky
no
does.
place in the middle order though. If Salt does come back,
That's what
because
I
he did
think.
well
I
at
think
number
Vinky
4
does
against
deserve
Punjab.
the spot. Yeah, I think Vinky does deserve a spot though because of the way he's playing, the way he's played the last couple of games, and the way he's striking the ball. This is some
Question
of
of
the
where
best.
though.
This is some of the best batting I've seen from him in terms of the way he's striking it, the way he's playing. Um, I would say drop Romario Shepherd, but like RCB will never drop Romario Shepherd. It seems, but I, I mean, if it was me personally, I would bring Salt back in, and then probably go with, um, so Salt, Kohli, Paddy. I'd go Venky 4 because I think you could put Rajat at 5 and he can go up against spin, and you could probably take on spin a bit more, and you
Yeah.
could go just Tim David 6, Jitesh 7, Krunal Pandya 8. And I think that's a decent top 8, but they're going to stick with Romario because they back him more as a bowler. I don't know why, but that's just the way they feel. That's how they feel about Romario Shepherd. Um, but I think it's harsh on Venky if he doesn't play because I think the way he's played the last couple of games that he does deserve an opportunity, but I don't think he will.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and we'll get more onto that as we talk about the playoffs. But just on SRH, then I feel like this win was very bittersweet because they still end up getting third
Yeah,
in the eliminator, and yeah, it just feels like it's all clicked for them just since the halfway point. It's feel like for a lot of these teams, the benchmark has been the halfway point of the season, whether it's gone uh, become good or become bad. And this SRH team, they just look so well rounded, which you would have imagined like at the start of the season.
no,
And
no,
I just want to get on the orange cap leaderboard again because Abhishek Sharma is number 7, 563 runs. Ishan Kishan number 6 at 569, and Heinrich Klaassen still up there, 606 runs, only just over 30 runs behind Sai Sudarshan at number 1.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, this batting unit's going to take some stopping in the playoffs, especially if they get going.
I feel like I say it every single episode now about SRH. They they've I say it all the time. The batting was always going to win them games. The problem at the beginning was the bowling, but they've got the bowling right because they dropped players. They dropped the players that cost the most money but weren't doing enough,
Yeah,
and they actually bought players and bowlers that actually helped the team. That's why they take. That's why they're starting to take more wickets in the power play. That's what they didn't take any wicket. They barely took any wickets in the power play. They take one in every 6 overs, which isn't enough. Now they're consistently taking more wickets in the power play. They've got the spinners to now take wickets in the middle. So yeah, as I said, I just think they've gotten the combinations perfectly since the start. And I think that's very important for them going into eliminators. And they go into that game against Rajasthan, the favourites. So yeah, I just keep going back to it. It was always the batting was always going to win them games, but their bowling has been the real change, I think, in terms of how good they've been and the turnaround they've had.
yeah. As you mentioned bowling, I think Sakib Hussain to have only played 10 games
Yep.
and picked up 15 wickets. That's been really good. And SR Malinga, who's actually played all 14, and so he's sort of been the mainstay. And SRH management they've trusted him, and he's picked up 19 wickets as well. So it just and with Pat Cummins, I mean, we know he can turn up, especially in these moments in
Yeah.
crunch times, and he'll want to avenge that 2024 loss against KKR if they do make it back to the final. And yeah, it just does feel like they're poised, and being third it is a risk, but I just feel like if they win one and they get to the qualifier 2 and then potential final,
Yeah.
it just feels like who's going to stop them at this point.
It's going to be just the bank. The bank's going to be on the batting.
Yeah,
Will the batting be as consistent as it had? Will it be as
Travis
consistent to
Travis Head
take them to
hasn't
those
had
games?
Travis Head
Yeah,
hasn't had like a freak score
yeah,
yet as well, which is crazy,
but
and it's still scoring
yeah,
250 plus.
but that's just going to be the one thing now. Is just how is the batting going to fare against three of the best bowling attacks this season. How's the batting going to fare now? But as I said, if Abhishek and Ishan and Travis Head and Irick Kloss and Nitish Reddy, if they just keep batting the way they are, you wouldn't want to play them. You just would not want to play them.
Yeah, and you mentioned coming up against the best bowling attacks, and I want to talk about tomorrow's game between RCB and Gujarat. And speaking on Gujarat's bowling attack, I mean, we saw Mohammad Siraj, Kahita Rabada, the way that they destroyed Chennai's hopes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was scary, the way they just tore apart the bowlers, and it just felt everything clicked, and the spinners as well getting on the act. It just feels like this Gujarat team, their bowlers are just. I say it personally, I think they're the best bowling unit in this IPL. I mean, as from an RCB perspective, how much do you fear this Gujarat bowling lineup, given the matchups you've already had against this Gujarat team? How do you think, will it be different tomorrow? And how can the RCB batters approach this Gujarat bowling machine?
Yeah, it's worrying. It's definitely worrying. How do we approach it? I don't know. It's hard to say because we tried to go aggressively against them at Narendra Modi in Ahmedabad, and it didn't work. We only scored like 150 and we lost the game. But we batted really well against them at Chinnaswamy. But Dharamshala's not as good at batting pitch as Chinnaswamy. It's still a decent batting surface, but I feel like we've just got to be quite watchful. I want us to win the toss and bowl, but I also know that RCB have a horrible history in terms of winning the toss, so I don't think that's going to happen. But it's hard to say how to approach how to go after that bowling lineup because they're just so strong, and like they've got the best bowlers, some of the best bowlers in the world who can suit any situation in an innings. So I'd say take it a bit slowly at the beginning. Not just throw your wickets away, not just lose 3 or 4 wickets in the power play and just trying to go all out. And I think once you go on from there, you can start to grow and build your innings a bit more. That's what I would say. But knowing this RCB team, they could be 60 for 4 in the power play. Like we don't know. But yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried about the Gujarat bowling because of how strong it is.
Yeah, just on the ground, obviously being playing in Dharamshala, the average first innings score is around 188, and one statistics that I found really interesting was teams actually batting first have won just over 55% of matches, which isn't much, but maybe that could come into thinking because don't know in terms of due because right now in India it is really hot at the moment, and I know with the altitude, and also in this ground in particular, maybe batting first is probably might not be the wise option because obviously slightly drier pitch as well, and then second innings may exploit that. Similar to what Gujarat did because they brought in the spinners and it felt like they were getting more purchase than the seamers in that game against Chennai and Ahmedabad. So, would you think that would suit RCB's game, batting first and just trying to stack as many runs? Because we've seen this Gujarat team under pressure when KKR scored big, and then their top three they couldn't handle it in terms of keeping up with the strike rate. Would you say that's sort of a key to victory, a pathway to victory for this RCB side?
Yeah, it could be because I still think that's one of the weaknesses in the Gujarat team is their batting, and it just feels again they're quite reliant on the top three. But I always like, as I say, I always like to bowl first, especially in knockout games. I always like to bowl first, and just kind of set the tone with the ball, and just kind of give you an opportunity with the bat. Because I'm always worried if you bat first, like we're not gonna, your team is when you bat first is never gonna have not always gonna have games like the Sanju Samson game in the T20 World Cup final where you score 250, like so. I'm always worried that if you bat first in these kind of games, you only score like 150, 160. The game's pretty much done. So I would want to bowl first personally, but that might be something they might look at just to kind of put more pressure on their top three. So maybe, but if it was me, I wouldn't. And I don't think Rajat bats first that much, even when he wins the toss. I think he bowls first a lot of time because he likes kind of setting the tone in the chase. So that'll be interesting. I kind of do hope we bowl first, but if we bat first, it'll be interesting to see how the top three of Gujarat fares.
Yeah, I mean that backs it up because obviously RCB they've only lost twice in 8 games when they are chasing games, in and they've lost half their games when they've had to defend scores as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, maybe obviously I feel like you back RCB either way. You should be prepared for both situations either way.
yeah,
But yeah, I think chasing might just be the template, and you'll just have to be restricting them and you just feel like if you can get Sudarshan Gill early, I feel like that middle order is still there for the taking for this Gujarat side, especially Bhuvneshwar. I feel like Hazelwood struggled a little bit coming back,
yeah.
but I just feel like if both of them just click, I just feel like this RCB can run through because I feel like they may be a little light on the third, fourth pace option, with maybe a Rasikdar and Romario if he does bowl 1 or 2 overs. So yeah, I feel like do you sort of feel is it very relying on Bhuvneshwar and Hazelwood being lights out against the Gujarat top three in particular?
Yeah, and also Krunal as well. I think Krunal's been a
Mm.
real standout with the ball. Um, yeah, they're the three bowlers that I always back most of all. But the three you mentioned, or the two you mentioned, plus another one in my opinion. So Rasikdar, Romario, and Suyash. As I think Suyash is a very good bowler. He's got a lot of qualities, but it just feels like he's not really getting his length right. He's dropping it short a lot of times recently. So he's going to have to be on it in this game. We saw last year in the qualifier. I think he took 4 wickets in the qualifier and got man of the match. So I'd love for another performance like that, but will we get that? I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah, do you feel like Boovi and Hazelwood are going to have to really step up tomorrow against a top quality top three?
Yeah, and then just for qualifier one, I mean, loser still in the tournament. They're not officially out yet. But if you were to give a prediction for tomorrow, where do you see it going?
How many times I've told you I don't like doing these predictions. I don't like doing these predictions. Um, Look, I'm gonna back my team, and I'm gonna say
Okay.
like we're gonna win. But yeah, there's a good chance Gujarat could win. There's a good chance because they
Yeah.
beat us early on in the season. Um, but no, I'll be confident and back my team. I'll support my team, so I'll go RCB.
You know what? I've got RCB losing, but I've got these two in the final again. That's like my overall prediction. I mean, we can get to the rest of the games.
Okay, okay.
I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I feel like it might be a matchup thing as well with the RCB against Gujarat. I don't know. It's just because it's tough. Like I say, it can go either way, and
Yeah,
I feel like matchups are a thing, and we'll get to the next game in the eliminator as well. So maybe that trend continues on into the playoffs. But as you mentioned, it is sort of like knockout cricket, knockout tournament cricket, essentially. So yeah, we'll see how it goes tomorrow. But the day after in New Chandigarh is the eliminator. This is do or die. Loser does go home. It's Sunrisers Hyderabad against Rajasthan Royals. The two previous games they did play in the season, you remember SRH revived their campaign in that, and it began in that game against Rajasthan, and they beat them again in Jaipur. They face for a third time. Will it be three in a row for SRH, or can Rajasthan do? I don't want to say a miracle, but it definitely does seem they're underdogs in this fixture.
it's all gonna depend on two things for Rajasthan: the bowling and how good they are against Sunrisers batting, and the form of the two openers. Because if SRH go and get a big score, like a 220 plus, Rajasthan will need almighty effort from their two openers, especially Suryavanshi with the form he's been in. But they're gonna need someone like Archer to take wickets in the power play, get the top order out early. And I think once you do that, once you start to put more pressure, once you start to get their better players out, you put more pressure on their lineup. So it's very important that he does that, that they do that. And they're going to need a big effort from their two openers. Because now, as you said, it's do or die now. Like, there's no excuses, there's nothing, there's no more chances after this. You have to win this game, otherwise you're done. So Rajasthan need to ensure those two things work against a very, very good batting side.
Yeah, I think a lot of talk. I mean, you mentioned the openers. I think a lot of talk is on Suryavanshi because he did do well in that game in Jaipur. Even I think he scored a century, didn't he? Even
Yeah,
though they lost.
yeah, he did.
But I think it's his opener, Jaiswal, because he hasn't scored a lot in the two games against SRH, and I just feel like if they can just go together in tandem, they don't need to get a big score, but if they could
Yeah,
just be the destructive pair, which I think they are in this IPL in terms of the openers, I feel like it can go a long way. And I don't know why. Somebody's telling me about this SRH team. They are a lot more prone to the collapse. As good as their batting is, something does tell me if likes of Archer, Berger get on a roll, maybe Brajesh as well. It just feels like I just feel like Rajasthan. I don't know how you see it, but I just feel like they should be very fearless. Like because like it. I don't know why. Because especially like I mentioned earlier, it might be a matchup thing because I feel like in the games Rajasthan have played, they've been very cautious and it's costed them in terms of
yeah,
the batting and the bowling, and they've been punished for it. So,
yeah.
do you think Rajasthan should just be fearless and just go for it? Maybe do bat first and set a target. Beat SRH in their own game because SRH do like to bat first and bat teams out of the game. I mean, how do you see it from a Rajasthan perspective in beating this Sunrisers team?
Well, they have to. Well, they have to be fearless. Both teams have to be fearless, to be fair,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
this is literally the last chance now. One of these teams is going out in 2 days' time, so both teams are going to need to play fearless. But for Rajasthan, they have to just ensure that when it comes to batting, they just make sure that their players are in form. Not just the two openers, but players like Parag, players like Jurel. Make sure those players are in form as well. And then with the bowling, they just need Archer, Berger, probably Brajesh, and maybe the spinner. They need to be working tandem, and need to get on a roll. Because if they don't, and they let the SRH batting get away, they could be chasing down a 240, 250, and pretty much at that point the game's gone anyway, regardless of what Vaibhav and Jaiswal do. So Rajasthan needs to get a lot right in this game if they're gonna want to get through, and they're gonna have to, yeah, go all out and play fierce cricket, because otherwise if it doesn't and it doesn't work, they're done.
yeah. I've literally just checked the weather for New Chandigarh for Wednesday. Highs of 42. We talk about heat wave here in the UK with 30
Yeah,
degrees. I know it's an evening game, but still, I don't know. It's weird because up north there, I don't know. There does seem to be dew as well. So again, a lot of questions. The pitch is it going to be used pitch because there's been quite a few games in New Chandigarh and now in Dharamshala as well. So
yeah,
I assume they do a fresh pitch. I could be wrong, but I mean, all that comes into play as well. And the funny thing is, just in the playoffs in general, I just think spin's going to be key. I just think the conditions.
yeah, yeah. It always
I
is.
feel like
It always is.
recently as well, we actually have seen we've seen Kuldeep for Delhi. We've seen Axar. We've seen a lot of spinners come to the fray essentially. And I don't know how do you see sort of the spinners matchup for both these sides because you got Jadeja. You've got the young spinner as well for Rajasthan. And then for SRH, you've got Shivang,
Yeah.
who's had a good season as well. And maybe a guy like Harsh Dubey. So could that be the key in terms of being the settler for these for both these sides?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, one thing I've just realised, remembered as well, how poor Abhishek was against spin in T20 World Cup. So maybe it might be a small gamble to maybe put a Jadeja or someone at the beginning. But I think as well, against Jaiswal and Suryavanshi, if they go, I wouldn't go with Harsh Dubey straight away because it's turning in. I think I'd rather go with Shivang early on against them because he spins it the other way. So Yeah, spin always plays a huge part in these kind of games. They'll always, they're never out of the game. They'll always just one over or one wicket, and it could change everything. So spinners is always playing one of the most important roles around this time, and they're going to have to.
Yeah, definitely. Prediction then. Who do you see going through? I'll go first. Actually, I've got Sunrisers. I just think the quality is too much.
I've got Sunrisers as well.
Yeah, I think they're still the team in form, even though Rajasthan have picked up as of late. And yeah, I just think the quality is just going to shine through. And I just think overall their top three is a lot better than Rajasthan's top three. I know it's very close in terms
Yeah,
of ability wise,
but
but I just think beyond that as well, I just think the overall game has been a lot better than Rajasthan's.
yeah, as I said, for Rajasthan, it's just going to be those two things that I said about how good the start is from someone like Archer, and how good the two openers are.
Yeah,
But I feel like SRH, Rajasthan are going to be so reliant on those two things that that plays into SRH's hands, because they can win from so many different positions. So I'm backing SRH to win this game.
yeah, I definitely agree. And yeah, and then we'll have the qualifier two, which based off your prediction, you've got Gujarat against SRH, which again is a very close game. That's basically two teams who wanted to get top two, and then they could be playing against each other for a place in the final. Again, it is very close. But again, I do. To be honest, I've got Gujarat, but the more I think about it, I don't know why. I think Gujarat are a lot more consistent as a team, but I just think SRH can outshine them. But I feel like SRH can bottle it against them as well. I don't know. It's a strange dynamic. I think in this matchup in particular.
I I think if I was an RCB fan, say we beat Gujarat tomorrow and we're in the final, who would I be more fearful playing in a one-off game?
Mm.
And I would choose SRH.
Yeah,
I'd be more fearful playing SRH in a one-off game,
yeah,
purely because of how good that batting lineup is. Like, people underestimate how good it is. It bats down to like number 7, number 8, and all of them are striking the ball brilliantly. So in a one-off game in a final, I think I'd rather play Gujarat. But something tells me SRH, they might just pull it out and win these next two games, and then go to the final. So yeah, I would back SRH, but I don't want it. I want it to be Gujarat, because I'd be more worried coming up against SRH in a one-off game.
yeah. And I just feel like if Gujarat bowlers, I just feel like if they misfire, I think SRH, they're out of the four teams in the players, I just think they're the ones who cash in the most, just in
Yeah,
terms of
definitely,
aggressiveness and just carrying it on as well. Like
definitely.
they make scoring 250 look easy, which is not easy thing. I know as much as we've seen these high scores, I just feel like if the pitches are true and it's a good batting service, I feel like that will suit SRH's game.
Definitely,
But
definitely.
but I do feel the batters do struggle with the hints of movement and seam. And if anyone's going to extract that, is likes of Kahisa Rabada, Mohammad Siraj, even likes of Prasad Krishna, Jason Holder as well. So it definitely could just come down to Gujarat's effectiveness with the ball, uh, coming up against the SRH top three, top five, even.
Yeah, yeah. That's the most important thing, because we talk a lot about both teams and saying how good the batting line, how good SRH's batting lineup is, how good Gujarat's bowling is. But this is the thing about these knockout games; they are one-off games. So any off day that any player has, and it's like it could be over. So it shows you the unpredictability of this kind of the end parts of these tournaments, because on form you might think that this team might be do better than this team, but then one team might just have an off day, and then it just their tournament's done. So it shows the unpredictability. I love it as an IPL fan, but I also get nervous at this point because RCB are in it.
Yeah, and the thing with Gujarat, there are no slouches at the bat. Sudarshan and Gillard, number one, number two in the orange cap race. And as
Yeah,
much as some people may criticize them for the strike rates or the way the tempo that they sometimes they set at the top as well in terms of not sort of setting up their team for success at times. It's got them to where they are, and again they're in the playoffs again, and they'll want to make up for last season and a couple of seasons now where they haven't made a final since 2023 when they came close, losing to CSK in Ahmedabad. So do you? I don't know, because I feel like do you think they're ready for this occasion, this challenge if they get it? Do you think Gill and the likes of Gill now being in the captaincy and the key players they built around him with likes of Sudarshan, Rashid Khan, and just the personnel they have, do you think they're capable of being in the final and winning it all?
Well, they'll need other batsmen to step up. First of all,
Yeah,
they can't just be reliant on the top three all the time. They're going to need They're going to need other players to step up. So that's going to be the most important thing if they do that. And if that doesn't happen, then maybe they may not be ready. But they just, as I said, if they get other batsmen in form to support the top three, then you're more than ready. But the fact that they're here now, regardless of if they think they are or they're not, they're going to have to be if they're going to want to win the whole tournament.
yeah. I mean, just before we get on the final prediction, who do you actually think is going to win the Orange Cap? I mean, we've mentioned the names already in the sort of top six, top seven, top eight. Who would you say? I mean, a lot's going to depend on who fires in these next 2 to 3 games for these respective teams. But if you had to pick one, maybe two, who would you pick?
Um, I'm biased. I'd love to see Kohli win it again, but I don't think he will. Um, I'll probably go with Sai Sudarshan. He's just consistent.
Yeah,
He's just consistent. His strike
I
rate,
agree.
strike rate at 158. It's not the best, but it's just his consistency. The guy never. He just always scores runs. So I'll probably go with Sai Sudarshan, but my heart wants Virat Kohli obviously to win it, but I don't think he will.
I mean, keep an eye out for Ishan Kishan and Abhishek because they've got to potentially play 3 games to win it all, and in those 3 games
True.
they could score a lot as well. So yeah, the race is heated up on both ends, and I think Bhuvneshwar is still the purple cap holder, and he can add to his tally as well, and maybe reach 30 because he's on 24 right now, I think.
Yeah, Rabada. I think is Rabada joined. I think Booby's got 25.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it's something
okay,
like that. Let me just quickly.
yeah, the joint 24, joint
Yeah,
24 at
joined
the moment.
24. Yeah, Rabada's
Yeah,
kind
so
of
the
gone
race
under the radar.
he
Look at how
has,
good
he
he's been
has.
this season.
I mean, it's just
Not many
Gujarat.
people have talked about it.
Yeah, it's just Gujarat. They bowled 3 overs of Siraj, 3 overs of Rabal in the power play. It's unorthodox, but it's actually worked,
Well,
and they've backed that up.
it
Yeah.
gets them wickets in the power play, and it sets teams back. So that's going to be very important. I hope they don't do that tomorrow, but if they do, then fair play to them. But I hope not.
You know what? For your sake, I won't let you give a prediction for the final. We'll just see how it goes,
Okay.
and I'm just happy to analyze it all next week or after Sunday. And do you want to give any final thoughts ahead of tomorrow's game and just ahead of the playoffs in general?
A lot of praying, just a lot of praying. All you got to do.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I feel like in the end, it may just be the best 4 teams that are left in it who, yeah, as we mentioned, given on their day, can storm to the title. And funnily enough, all 4 teams are looking for their second title, given that RCB won last year and all other three
Yeah, true.
teams have won one already. So it is the battle for the second star, essentially. And yeah, the race heats up from this week. We'll find out in just under a week's time who will have the second star on their badge heading into next season. Will it be RCB going back to back? Will it be Rajasthan winning since 2008? SRH after 10 years? Could we see an SRH RCB final again? Hey, let's see.
Oh God.
But yeah, once again, Dejan, I know you're stressing already, but let's save the nerves for tomorrow. Let's hope you've got enough nails on your fingers to bite off. But Yeah, but yeah, like I said, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to do it. I think Dejan, he probably won't get enough sleep heading into tomorrow's game. But but once again, many thanks to tuning into the Six and Out podcast brought to you by Sports News Blitz. Be sure to check out our YouTube and Spotify and to check out our Sports News Blitz website. Dejan, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you after the final. Peace.